She had no memories of anything before the early 60s, and the only person she had ever known who talked frequently of the days before the revolution was a grandfather who had disappeared when she was 8. At school, she had been captain of the hockey team and had won the gymnastics trophy 2 years running. She had been a troop leader in the Spies and a branch secretary in the Youth League before joining the Junior Anti-Sex League. She had always borne an excellent character. She had even, an infallible mark of good reputation, been picked out to work in Pornosec, the subsection of the fiction department which turned out cheap pornography for distribution among the pros. It was nicknamed Muck House by the people who worked in it, she remarked. There, she had remained for a year, helping to produce booklets and sealed packets with titles like Spanking Stories or One Night in a Girls' School to be bought furtively by proletarian youths who were under the impression that they were buying something illegal. "What are those books like?" said Winston curiously. "Oh, ghastly rubbish. They're boring, really. They only have 6 plots, but they swap them round a bit. Of course, I was only on the kaleidoscopes. I was never in the rewrite squad. I'm not literary, dear. Not even enough of that." He learned with astonishment that all the workers in Pornosec, except the head of the department, were girls. The theory was that men whose sex instincts were less controllable than those of women were in greater danger of being corrupted by the filth they handled. They don't even like having married women up there," she added. "Girls are always supposed to be so pure. Here's one who isn't, anyway." She had had her first love affair when she was 16, with a party member of 60 who later committed suicide to avoid arrest. "And a good job, too," said Julia. "Otherwise they'd have my name out of him when he confessed." Since then, there had been various others. Life as she saw it was quite simple. You wanted a good time. They, meaning the party, wanted to stop you having it. You broke the rules as best you could. She seemed to think it was just as natural that they should want to rob you of your pleasures as you should want to avoid being caught. She hated the party, and said so in the crudest words, but she made no general criticism of it. Except where it touched upon her own life, she had no interest in party doctrine. He noticed that she never used newspeak words, except the ones that had passed into everyday use. She never heard of the Brotherhood and refused to believe in its existence. Any kind of organized revolt against the party, which was bound to be a failure, struck her stupid. The clever thing was to break the rules and stay alive all the same. He wondered vaguely how many others like her there might be in the younger generation. People who had grown up in the world of the revolution, knowing nothing else, accepting the party as something unalterable like the sky, not rebelling against its authority but simply evading it, as a rabbit dodges a dog. They did not discuss the possibility of getting married. It was too remote to be worth thinking about. No imaginable committee would ever sanction such a marriage, even if Catherine, Winston's wife, could somehow have been got rid of. It was hopeless, even as a daydream. "What was she like, your wife?" said Julia. "She was... Do you know the newspeak word, good thinkful? Meaning naturally orthodox, incapable of thinking, a bad thought." "No, I didn't know the word, but I know the kind of person, right enough." He began telling her the story of his married life, but curiously enough she appeared to know the essential parts of it already. She described to him almost as though she had seen or felt it, the stiffening of Catherine's body as soon as he touched her, the way in which she seemed to be pushing him from her with all her strength, even when her arms were clasped tightly round him. With Julia, he felt no difficulty in talking about such things. Catherine, in any case, had long ceased to be a painful memory and become merely a distasteful one. "I could have stood it if it hadn't been for one thing," he said. He told her about the frigid little ceremony that Catherine had forced him to go through on the same night every week. She hated it, but nothing would make her stop doing it. She used to call it... but you'll never guess. Our duty to the party, said Julia promptly. How did you know that? I've been at school too, dear. Sex talks once a month for over 16s, and in the youth movement. They rub it into you for years. I dare say it works a lot in a lot of cases. But of course you can never tell. People are such hypocrites. She began to enlarge upon the subject. With Julia, everything came back to her own sexuality. As soon as this was touched upon in any way, she was capable of great acuteness. Unlike Winston, she grasped the inner meaning of the party's sexual puritanism. It was not merely that the sex instinct created a world of its own which was outside the party's control and which therefore had to be destroyed if possible. What was more important was that the sexual privation induced hysteria, which was desirable because it could be transformed into war fever and leader worship. The way she put it was, when you make love, you're using up energy, and afterwards you feel happy and don't give a damn for anything. They can't bear you to feel like that. They want you to be bursting with energy all the time. All this marching up and down and cheering and waving flags is simply sex gone sour. If you're happy inside yourself, why should you get excited about Big Brother and the 3-year plans and the 2 minutes hate and all the rest of their bloody rot? That was very true, he thought. There was a direct, intimate connection between chastity and political orthodoxy. For how could the fear, the hatred, and the lunatic credulity which the party needed its members to be kept at the right pitch, except by bottling down some powerful instinct and using it as a driving force? The sex impulse was dangerous to the party, and the party turned it to account. They played a similar trick with the instinct of parenthood. The family could not actually be abolished, and indeed, people encouraged to be fond of their children in almost the old-fashioned way. The children, on the other hand, were systematically turned against their parents and taught to spy on them and report their deviations. The family had become, in effect, an extension of the thought police. It was devised by means of which everyone could be surrounded night and day by informers who knew him intimately. Abruptly, his mind went back to Catherine. Catherine would unquestionably have denounced him to the thought police if she had not happened to be too stupid to detect the unorthodoxy in his opinions. But what really recalled her to him at this moment was the stifling heat of the afternoon which had brought the sweat out on his forehead. He began telling Julia of something that had happened, or rather had failed to happen, on another sweltering summer afternoon, 11 years ago. It was 3 or 4 months after they were married. They had lost their way on a community hike somewhere in Kent. They had only lagged behind the others for a couple of minutes, but they took the wrong turn, and presently found themselves pulled up short by the edge of an old chalk quarry. It was a sheer drop of 10 or 20 metres with boulders at the bottom. There was nobody of whom they could ask the way. As soon as she realised that they were lost, Catherine became very uneasy. To be away from the noisy mob of hikers even for a moment gave her a feeling of wrongdoing. She wanted to hurry back by the way they had come and start searching from the other direction. But at this moment, Winston noticed some tufts of loose strife growing in the cracks of the cliff beneath them. One tuft was of 2 colours, magenta and brick red, apparently growing on the same root. He had never seen anything of the kind before, and called to Catherine to come and look at it. "Look, Catherine! Look at those flowers! That clump down there near the bottom. Do you see they're 2 different colours?" She had already turned to go, but she did rather fretfully come back for a moment. She even leaned out over the cliff face to see what he was pointing. He was standing a little behind her, and he put her hand on her waist to steady her. At this moment, it suddenly occurred to him how completely alone they were. There was not a human creature anywhere, not a leaf stirring, not even a bird awake. In a place like this, the danger that there would be a hidden microphone was very small, and even if there was a microphone, it would only pick up sounds. It was the hottest, sleepiest hour of the afternoon. The sun blazed down upon them, the sweat tickled his face, and the thought struck him. "Why didn't you give her a good shove?" said Julia. "I would have." "Yes, dear, you would have. I would have, if I'd been the same person then as I am now. Or perhaps I would. I'm not certain." "Are you sorry you didn't?" "Yes. On the whole, I'm sorry I didn't." They were sitting side by side on the dusty floor. He pulled her closer against him. Her head rested on his shoulder, and the pleasant smell of her hair conquering the pigeon dung. She was very young, he thought. She still expected something from life. She did not understand that to push an inconvenient person over the cliff solves nothing. "Actually, it would have made no difference," he said. "Then why are you sorry you didn't do it?" "Only because I prefer a positive to a negative. In this game that we're playing, we can't win. Some kinds of failure are better than other kinds, that's all." He felt her shoulders give a wriggle of dissent. She always contradicted him when he said anything of this kind. She would not accept it as a law of nature that an individual is always defeated. In a way, she realized that she herself was doomed, that sooner or later the thought police would catch her and kill her. But with another part of her mind, she believed that it was somehow impossible to construct a secret world in which you could live as you choose. All you needed was luck and cunning and boldness. She did not understand that there was no such thing as happiness, and the only victory lay in the far future, long after you were dead, that from the moment of declaring war on you, on the party, it was better to think of yourself as a corpse. "We are dead," he said. "We're not dead yet," said Julia, prosaically. "Not physically. 6 months. A year. 5 years, conceivably. I am afraid of death. You are young, so presumably you're more afraid of it than I am. Obviously we shall put it off as long as we can, but it makes very little difference. So long as human beings stay human, death and life are the same thing." "Oh, rubbish! Would you sooner sleep with me or a skeleton? Don't you enjoy being alive? Don't you like feeling, this is me, this is my hand, this is my leg, I'm real, I'm solid, I'm alive. Don't you like this?" She twisted herself round and pressed her bosom against him. He could feel her breast ripe yet firm through her overalls. Her body seemed to be pouring some of its youth and vigour into his. "Yes, I like that," he said. "Then stop talking about dying. Now listen, dear, we've got to fix up about the next time we meet. We may as well go back to the place in the wood. We've given it a good long rest. But you must get there by a different way this time. I've got it all planned out. You take the train, but look, I'll draw it out for you." And, in a practical way, she scraped together a small square of dust, and with a twig from a pigeon's nest, began drawing a map on the floor. Winston looked around that shabby little room above Mr. Sharrington's shop. Beside the window, the enormous bed was made up, with ragged blankets and a coverless bolster. The old-fashioned clock with the 12-hour face was ticking away on the mantelpiece. In the corner, on the gate-legged table, the glass paperweights which he had bought on his last visit gleamed softly out of the half-darkness. In the fender was a battered tin oil stove, a saucepan, and 2 cups provided by Mr. Sharrington. Winston lit the burner and set a pan of water to boil. He had brought an envelope full of Victory coffee and some saccharine tablets. The clock's hand said 7:20. It was 19:20, really. She was coming at 19:20. Folly, folly, his heart kept saying. Conscious, gratuitous, suicidal folly. Of all the crimes that a party member could commit, this one was the least possible to conceal. Actually, the idea had first floated into his mind in the form of a vision of the glass paperweights mirrored by the surface of the gate-leg table. As he had foreseen, Mr. Sharrington had made no difficulty about letting the room. He was obviously glad of the few dollars it would bring him. Nor did he seem shocked or become offensively knowing when it was made clear that Winston wanted the room for the purpose of a love affair. Instead, he looked into the middle distance and spoke in generalities, with so delicate an air as to give the impression that he had become partly invisible. Privacy, he said, was a very valuable thing. Everyone wanted a place where they could be alone occasionally, and when they had such a place, it was only common courtesy to anyone else who knew of it to keep his knowledge to himself. He even, seeming almost to fade out of existence as he did so, added that there were 2 entries in the house, one of them through the backyard which gave on an alley. Under the window, somebody was singing. Winston peeped out, secure in the protection of the muslin curtain. The June sun was still high in the sky, and in the sun-filled court below, a monstrous woman, solid as a Norman pillar, with brawny red forearms and a sacking apron strapped about her middle, was stumping to and fro between a wash-tub and a clothesline, pegging out a series of square white things which Winston recognized as babies' diapers. Whenever her mouth was not corked with clothes pegs, she was singing in a powerful contralto. It was only an hopeless fancy. It passed like an April dye, but a look on a word and all the dreams they stirred, they have stolen my heart away. The tune had haunting London for weeks past. It was one of countless similar songs published for the benefit of the prose by a subsection of the music department. The words of these songs were composed without any human intervention whatever on an instrument known as a versificator. But the women sang it so tunefully as to turn the dreadful rubbish into an almost pleasant sound. He could hear the woman singing, and the scrape of her shoes on the flagstones, and the cries of the children in the street, and somewhere in the far distance a faint roar of traffic, and yet the room seemed curiously silent thanks to the absence of a telescreen. Folly, 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 he thought again. It was inconceivable that they could frequent this place for more than a few weeks without being caught. But the temptation of having a hiding place that was truly their own, indoors and near at hand, had been too much for both of them. For some time after the visit to the church belfry, it had been impossible to arrange meetings. Working hours had been drastically increased in anticipation of Hate Week. It was more than a month distant, but the enormous, complex preparations that it entailed were throwing extra work onto everybody. Finally, both of them managed to secure a free afternoon on the same day. They had agreed to go back to the clearing in the wood. On the evening beforehand, they met briefly in the street. As usual, Winston hardly looked at Julia as they drifted toward one another in the crowd, but from the short glance he gave her, it seemed to him that she was paler than usual. "It's all off," she murmured, as soon as she judged it safe to speak. "Tomorrow, I mean." "What?" "Tomorrow afternoon. I can't come." "Why not?" "Oh, the usual reason. It started early this time." For a moment he was violently angry. During the month that he had known her, the nature of his desire for her had changed. At the beginning there had been little true sensuality in it. Their first love-making had been simply an act of the will. But after the second time, it was different. The smell of her hair, the taste of her mouth, the feeling of her skin seemed to have got inside him, or into the air all around him. She had become a physical necessity, something that he not only wanted, but felt that he had a right to. When she said that she could not come, he had the feeling that she was cheating on him. But just at this moment, the crowd pressed them together and their hands accidentally met. She gave the tips of his fingers a quick squeeze that seemed to invite not desire, but affection. It struck him that when one lived with a woman this particular, disappointment must be normal, recurring event, and a deep tenderness, such as he had not felt for her before, suddenly took hold of him. He wished that they were a married couple of 10 years standing. He wished that he were walking through the streets with her just as they were doing now, but openly and without fear, talking of trivialities and buying odds and ends for the household. He wished above all that they had some place where they could be alone together without feeling the obligation to make love every time they met. It was not actually at that moment, but at some time on the following day, that the idea of renting Mr. Sharrington's home had occurred to him. When he suggested it to Julia, she had agreed with unexpected readiness. Both of them knew that it was lunacy. It was as though they were intentionally stepping nearer to their graves. As he sat waiting on the edge of the bed, he thought again of the cellars of the Ministry of Love. It is curious how that predestined horror moved in and out of one's consciousness. There it lay, fixed in future time, preceding death as surely as 99 precedes 100. One could not avoid it, but one could perhaps postpone it. And yet, instead, every now and again, by a conscious, willful act, one chose to shorten the interval before it happened. At this moment, there was a quick step on the stairs. Julia burst into the room. She was carrying a tool bag of coarse brown canvas, such as he had sometimes seen her carrying to and fro at the ministry. He started forward to take her in his arms, but she disengaged herself rather hurriedly, partly because she was still holding the tool bag. "Half a second," she said. "Just let me show you what I've brought. Did you bring some of that filthy Victory coffee? I thought you would. We can chuck it away again because we shan't be needing it. Look here." She fell on her knees, threw open the bag, and tumbled out some spanners and a screwdriver that filled the top part of it. Underneath was a number of neat paper packets. The first packet that she passed to Winston had a strange and yet vaguely familiar feeling. It was filled with some kind of heavy, sand-like stuff which yielded wherever you touched it. "It isn't sugar," he said. "Real sugar, not saccharine sugar. And here's a loaf of bread. Proper white bread, not a bloody stuff, and a little pot of jam. And here's a tin of milk. But look, this is the one I'm really proud of. I had to wrap a bit of sacking round it because..." But she did not need to tell him why she had wrapped it up. The smell was already filling the room, a rich, hot smell which seemed like an emanation from his early childhood, but which one did occasionally meet with even now, blowing down a passageway before a door slammed or diffusing itself mysteriously in a crowded street. Sniffed for an instant, and then lost again. "It's coffee," he murmured. "Real coffee." "It's inner party coffee. There's a whole kilo here," she said. "How did you manage to get hold of all these things?" "It's all inner party stuff. There's nothing those swine don't have. Nothing. Of course, waiters and servants and people pinch things, and look, I got a packet of tea as well." Winston had squatted down beside her. He tore open a corner of the packet. "It's real tea, not blackberry leaves." There's been a lot of tea about lately. They captured India or something, she said vaguely. But listen, dear, I want you to turn your back on me for 3 minutes. Go and sit on the other side of the bed. Don't go too near the window, and don't turn round till I tell you. Winston gazed abstractedly through the muslin curtain. Down in the yard, the red-armed woman was still marching to and fro between the washtub and the line. She took 2 more pegs out of her mouth and sang with a deep feeling. They say that time heals all things. They say you can always forget, but the smiles and the tears across the years, they twist my hairstrings yet. She knew the whole drivelling song by heart, it seemed. Her voice floated upward with the sweet summer air, very tuneful, charged with a sort of happy melancholy. One had the feeling that she would have been perfectly content if the June evening had been endless and the supply of clothes inexhaustible, to remain there for 1,000 years, pegging out diapers and singing rubbish. It struck him as a curious fact that he had never heard of a member of the party singing alone and spontaneously. It would even have seemed slightly unorthodox, a dangerous eccentricity like talking to oneself. However, it was only when people were somewhere near the starvation level that they had anything to sing about. "You can turn round now," said Julia. He turned round and for a second almost failed to recognize her. What he had actually expected was to see her naked, but she was not naked. The transformation that had happened was much more surprising than that. She had painted her face. She must have slipped into some shop in the proletarian quarters and bought herself a complete set of makeup materials. Her lips were deeply reddened, her cheeks rouged, her nose powdered. There was even a touch of something under the eyes to make them brighter. It was not very skillfully done, but Winston's standards in such matters were not high. He had never before seen or imagined a woman of the party with cosmetics on her face. The improvement in her appearance was startling. With just a few dabs of colour in the right places, she has become not only very much prettier, but, above all, far more feminine. Her short hair and boyish overalls merely added to the effect. As he took her in his arms, a wave of synthetic violets flooded his nostrils. He remembered the half-darkness of the basement kitchen and the woman's cavernous mouth. It was the very same scent that she had used, but at that moment it did not seem to matter. "Scent too," he said. "Yes, dear, scent too. And do you know what I'm going to do next? I'm going to get hold of a real woman's frock for somewhere and wear it instead of these bloody trousers. I'll wear silk stockings and high-heeled shoes. In this room, I'm going to be a woman, not a party comrade." They flung their clothes off and climbed into the huge mahogany bed. It was the first time that he had stripped himself naked in her presence. Until now, he had been too much ashamed of his pale and meagre body with the varicose veins sticking out of his calves and the discoloured patch over his ankle. There were no sheets, but the blanket they lay on was threadbare and smooth, and the size and springiness of the bed astonished both of them. "It's sure to be full of bugs, but who cares?" said Julia. One never saw a double bed nowadays, except in the rooms of the pros. Winston had occasionally slept in one in his childhood. Julia had never been in one before, so far as she could remember. Presently they fell asleep for a little while. When Winston woke up, the hands of the clock had crept round to nearly 9. He did not stir because Julia was sleeping with her head in the crook of his arm. Most of her makeup had transferred itself to his own face or the bolster, but a light stain of rouge still brought out the beauty of her cheekbone. A yellow ray from the sinking sun fell across the foot of the bed and lighted up the fireplace, where the water in the pan was boiling fast. Down in the yard, the women had stopped singing, but the faint shouts of children floated in from the street. He wondered vaguely whether in the abolished past it had been a normal experience to lie in bed like this in the cool of a summer evening. A man and a woman with no clothes on, making love when they chose, talking of what they chose, not feeling any compulsion to get up, simply lying there and listening to peaceful sounds outside. Surely, there could never have been a time when that seemed ordinary. Julia woke up, rubbed her eyes, and raised herself on her elbow to look at the oil stove. "Half that water's boiled away," she said. "I'll get up and make some coffee in another moment. We've got an hour. What time do they cut the lights off at your flat?" 23:30. "It's 23 at the hostel, but you have to get in earlier than that because—" "Hi! Get out, you filthy brute!" She suddenly twisted herself over in bed and seized a shoe from the floor and sent it hurtling into the corner with a boyish jerk of her arm, exactly as he had seen her fling the dictionary at Goldstein that morning during the 2 minutes hate. "What is it?" he said in surprise. "A rat! I saw him stick his beastly nose out of the wainscoting. There's a hole down there. I gave him a good fright anyway." "Rats," murmured Winston. "In this room?" "They're all over the place," said Julia indifferently as she lay down again. "I even got them in the kitchen at the hostel. Some parts of London are swarming with them. Did you know they attack children? Yes, they do. In some of these streets a woman daren't have a baby alone for 2 minutes. It's the great huge brown ones that do it. And the nasty thing is that the brutes always—" "Don't go on," said Winston, with his eyes tightly shut. "Dearest, you've gone quite pale. What's the matter? Do they make you feel sick?" "Of all the horrors in the world, a rat!" She pressed herself against him and wound her limbs round him, as though to reassure him with the warmth of her body. He did not reopen his eyes immediately. For several moments he had had the feeling of being back in a nightmare, which had recurred from time to time throughout his life. It was always very much the same. He was standing in front of a wall of darkness, and on the other side of it there was something unendurable, something too dreadful to be faced. In the dream, his deepest feeling was always one of self-deception, because he did in fact know what was behind the wall of darkness. With a deadly effort, like wrenching a piece out of his own brain, he could even have dragged the thing into the open. He always woke up without discovering what it was, but somehow it was connected with what Julia had been saying when he cut her short. "I'm sorry," he said. "It's nothing. I don't like rats, that's all." "Don't worry, dear. We're not going to have the filthy brutes in here. I'll stuff the hole with a bit of sacking before we go, and next time we come here I'll bring some plaster and bung it up properly." Already, the black instant of panic was half forgotten. Feeling slightly ashamed of himself, he sat up against the bedhead. Julia got out of bed, pulled on her overalls and made the coffee. The smell that rose from the saucepan was so powerful and exciting that they shut the window lest anybody outside should notice it and become inquisitive. What was even better than the taste of the coffee was the silky texture given to it by the sugar, a thing Winston had almost forgotten after years of saccharine. With one hand in her pocket and a piece of bread and jam in the other, Julia wandered about the room, glancing indifferently at the bookcase, pointing out the best way of repairing the gate-legged table, plumping herself down in the ragged armchair to see if it was comfortable, and examining the absurd 12-hour clock with a sort of tolerant amusement. She brought the glass paperweight over to the bed to have a look at it in a better light. He took it out of her hand, fascinated as always by the soft, rain-watery appearance of the glass. "What is it, do you think?" said Julia. "I don't think it's anything. I don't think it was ever put to use. That's what I like about it. It's a little chunk of history that they've forgotten to alter. It's a message from 100 years ago if one knew how to read it. And that picture over there, she nodded at the engraving at the opposite wall. Would that be 100 years old? More. 200, I dare say. One can't tell. It's impossible to discover the age of anything nowadays. She went over to look at it. Here's where that brute stuck his nose out, she said, kicking the wainscoting immediately below the picture. What is this place? I've seen it before somewhere. It's a church, at least it used to be. St. Clement's Dane, its name was. The fragment of rhyme that Mr. Sharrington had taught him came back into his head, and he added half nostalgically, Oranges and lemons as the bells of St. Clement's. To his astonishment, she capped the line, You owe me 3 farthings as the bells of St. Martin's. When will you pay me, says the bells of Old Bailey. I can't remember how it goes on after that. But anyway, I remember it ends up, Here comes a candle to light you to bed, here comes a chopper to chop off your head. It was like the 2 halves of a countersign, but there must be another line after the bells of Old Bailey. Perhaps it could be dug out of Mr. Sharrington's memory if he were suitably prompted. Who taught you that? He said. My grandfather. He used to say it to me when I was a little girl. He was vaporized when I was 8. At any rate, he disappeared. I wonder what a lemon was, she added inconsequently. I've seen oranges. They're kind of round yellow fruit with a thick skin. I can remember lemons, said Winston. They were quite common in the 50s. They were so sour that it set your teeth on edge even to smell them. I bet that picture's got bugs behind it, said Julia. I'll take it down and give it a good cleaning some day. I suppose it's almost time we were leaving. I must start washing this paint off. What a bore. I'll get the lipstick off your face afterwards. Winston did not get up for a few minutes more. The room was darkening. He turned over toward the light and lay gazing into the glass paperweight. The inexhaustively interesting thing was not the fragment of coral, but the interior of the glass itself. There was such a depth of it, and yet it was almost as transparent as air. It was as though the surface of the glass had been the arc of the sky, enclosing a tiny world with its atmosphere complete. He had the feeling that he could get inside it, and that in fact he was inside it, along with the mahogany bed and the gate-leg table and the clock and steel engraving and the paperweight itself. The paperweight was the room he was in, and the coral was Julia's life and his own, fixed in a sort of eternity at the heart of the crystal. I think that is about as much as I will read for now, and maybe perhaps I will come back and read more later. Oh god, hi, I don't know if you're still there. Oh my god. Again with the 2 people. Who is the other person? Ugh. How do you like the story so far? Yes, you are. You're here. What do you think of it so far? Yeah? Wait. Why? Why? Too much copulation? There's a reason for that. There is. It's because you probably don't remember the beginning part of the story, and you didn't go back and listen to the reading you didn't listen to. Those things might let you know why this is going on. This world discourages any sort of normalcy, or any sort of normalcy that we regard as normal in, you know, modern day life. This is a dystopian society, so anything like that is discouraged and is looked upon as some sort of treasonous act. So they aren't treated as people. People aren't considered as people. They're just stock, you know. So the reason why they're doing this is just because, I mean, you know, with Big Brother and all that, natural human instinct and natural human anything is just discouraged. It's a crime to do anything like that. So the fact that these two individuals managed to find each other and are similar in that fact that they are not completely brainwashed. Catherine is used as a clear juxtaposition between all of them. And the fact that these two aren't that way allows them to do what is only natural and proper, right? Outside of the, you know, crushing control of Big Brother. So the fact that they're doing this is perfectly normal, and it is indeed what Winston thinks it is. He says that any of these acts is like a total rebellion against Big Brother, because it is exactly that. Right under their very nose, they being Big Brother and the inner party and all that stuff, or the party in general, they're doing what is considered to be taboo, and nothing can be done about it because Big Brother knows not of it. So it's not really irksome. It's just it's what would be done. Perhaps it irks you just because maybe the topic is a little bit mature. It's surprising that they had this book read in high school everywhere, because it's a bit of a mature book. Oh well. Yeah, because whenever I read certain things like that, you spaz out, and it's just like, oh, it's okay. The fact that this relationship exists at all in this universe is a miracle. 1984. You never heard of 1984? Perhaps you've heard of the author, George Orwell. I know you've heard that name because I read that name to you in a previous book. He's also the no, it's someone else, never mind. Well, have you heard of Animal Farm? He's the same guy. Yeah, he's the same man who wrote that. This is his magnum opus, what people say. You have, yes. Oh no! Canada, what is wrong with you? I don't understand. Perhaps because it's Canada. Canada is more so French and America's more so British. You know, because colonies and all that. I guess that can make sense. You have your country is way more aware of French things than ours. Mine is. That's obvious. But yeah. So week 1 is over. How many more weeks do we have left? That was the question that you didn't understand from me before. And that you say a small thing to mention. I'm like, small? How small? That was my question, but you did not understand me, and so we dropped it consequently. But I was wondering, short as in length of time, literally, for your duration of not being here. That's my thing. 2 weeks? It's only 2 weeks long? No. 2 weeks long or 2 weeks left? So the time has not changed. So it didn't change. Now do you understand my question? Okay, that was why. You used to have a little thing, and I'm like, okay, how little? I was thinking of the literal duration of it. Well, 2 weeks left. By the time you're finished with that, I would have 2 weeks left in my own quarter. So, and then afterwards, I'd be free! I'd have a month to myself and do whatever it is I want! Oh! Except every Monday, Wednesday, and Friday, I would have to go up here and do frog husbandry, which I don't really complain about, but sometimes it's The bus ride can be tedious. Oh well. I will assuredly ask for like a 2-week off vacation anyway, because I can do that. But I probably would do that 2 weeks. I don't know when I would do that. I'd probably do that. I don't know. 2 or 3 weeks vacation. I would do that. Yeah. Well, probably not 3 weeks. I don't know. 2.5 weeks. Yeah, 2.5 weeks seems fair to me. But yeah. Yeah. So now, what do? I don't know. Guess I'll play some Smash, because that's something. I still have this. I don't remember where I was in this book. Oh, maybe I do. Oh no. Which one was this? Oh no, I didn't get there, did I? No idea. Oh no, I know. Never mind. I have not, but I will. I've been incredibly busy all day yesterday. I slept. Don't worry. I'll have it all solved. I see how I feel now when people take a break from my own crosswords, although mine are quite involved. I don't know if really they're all that involved, but involved nonetheless, I suppose. Yeah, so anyway, I guess I'll play some Smash, because I do daily. I have to admit though, I've played quite a number of Nintendo things, so I played a lot of Nintendo systems and had numerous games from Nintendo, and it's just like, the Switch is perhaps their best device ever, aside from the GameCube. Like, the construct of this device is so nice, and it has an actual touchscreen. Like, before, the DS's are touchscreens too, but they're capacitative in that they take pressure to detect signal, but this one is strictly electrical, like a phone, like a smartphone. So it's like, about time you don't live in the past anymore. But that's nice. And in about 3 days, I'm having my capture card come in, so now everyone can watch me fail on the internet. So I can project my Switch gameplay onto the internet, which just makes it convenient for anyone who wants to see it. And if we ever do those Discord calls again, you wouldn't have to look at it shoddily with a webcam recording of it. It just will be direct HD, So that will be nice. Yeah. Who is why are there 3 people watching? Is Keela one of them? I don't know. Yeah. So, Switch it is. I mean, I could theoretically project the Switch stuff now, but I don't think it's proper. It'd be too, and plus I'd be too embarrassed. I'm not that good yet, so. I like the Switch. It's a unique device. I really like it. I like the shape of it. I love the size of the screen. It's so big. But yeah, I might stream later. I might draw later. It's been very slow in the drawing department with me, but hopefully I'll get out of it. I have ideas to do, but just so many things are on my mind right now. At the same time that I can't find a way to settle with any one of them. And because of that, I get frustrated, and then I end up doing none of them. So then that's just... Yeah. Oh, it's you! Hello. How are you? Are you the mysterious person who constantly watches? You aren't the mysterious person, are you? Or maybe you just happen to be the third person today. Well, good to see you. I'm afraid you may have just missed my reading, but that's not saying much because it's not really anything. Anyway, so just today. Oh, okay. Will you be joining us on any more future streams? Perhaps. No problem. What? Oh yeah? When's your time? Wait, yeah, when's your time zone? Oh, what is? You are! I know! You have no idea how much appreciation I have for you, okay? I know your name, because I'm just like, oh my god, Tim. Oh, cool, okay. Cool. Yeah. Do you work? You do. Do you work? What do you work? Maybe that contributes to your lack of time. I tend to stream every so often. A couple times a week. Sometimes daily. Really short though. It depends. Sometimes, normally if it's an art stream and I'm just drawing random things, it takes a little while, and so it's several hours long usually. And then I have reading streams, which can be, I don't know, it could be up to 4 hours, or short streams, or just conversational streams. Oh yeah, I see. Yeah. Like a 9-hour shift, yeah? Got you. That's good. One has to work to make a living, so. Indeed. Oh my god, have you heard? I've heard this recently. Apparently they screened a bit of season 4 of Rick and Morty over in California. Oh my god, so soon! I don't know when the release date is for that show. Excited. I missed that show. I need to get back into it. I might rewatch all of season 1 through 3 just to recap everything that's ever happened because I forgot. Yeah. I wonder if they're gonna make more like Rick and Morty games. I can imagine because there's a lot more coming. At least what, like 70 episodes? You haven't? Yeah. Apparently they screened some of season 4 in California recently. Very recently. Excited for that. And then, I don't know. I think the most interesting thing... Okay, the two most interesting... No, wait. 3 most interesting things in this entire story of Rick and Morty is like... Rick himself is an intriguing person. He's like terrible, but there's reasons for it. And also like... I love how... Actually, there's 4 things, sorry. I love how they explore the universe. I like what Roiland and Harmon do for the universe of Rick and Morty. I don't know what to expect. And then I love the logic behind all of it. It makes so much sense. It's so nicely done. There's 5 things, I'm sorry. And the other thing is I love the animation itself because you can tell very talented animators work in that group. And then the other thing, the last thing is, oh, I'm so intrigued by Evil Morty. I want to see what happens. Oh my god, the music flashing back now. 9-inch nails. Okay. Oh, you see. Oh, you have? Cool. I don't have the means to play that game, sadly. So, yeah. I want to make a game. I just don't have any knowledge of scripting, really. Except basic stuff, but that doesn't really, I don't think that's really useful for you know. Yeah! Exactly. Yeah! Oh man, I can't wait. Can't wait. Ooh! Anyway, yeah. What brings you here? Not busy on a Sunday evening? Or like, afternoon? No, it's almost evening, I think. Oh, also, are you part of my Discord server? That's where you can hang out with all of us, by the way. Oh, you are? Okay, yeah. Did you want to join the server? It's where all of us hang out. Rather than this odd, one-directional conversation. Oh, you're not? Oh, okay. Well, if you ever wanted to talk and things, just let me know. I'll send you the thing. It'll be a lot easier. Yeah. Yeah. Man. Oh, also. Oh, really? Okay. If you wanted to chat more, just feel free. Also, sorry for the slowness in content recently on Patreon. It's because, oh my god, I've had a lot going on. I promise I'll have content coming up soon. I have my graphic novel all planned. Well, no, I wish. No, it's being planned. As it only ever is. To get past that point is so frustrating. Oh my god, I'm still stuck in it because I need to figure out how to make it work. And on top of that, I need to figure out certain things artistically. You know. What I think gonna have what I think gonna do is I'm going to be posting like preview versions of it on like Tapastic so that people can see it, and then have the full renders of every page ever, and plus additional content just on Patreon, because that's proper, you know. That's about it. And then once it gets a big enough audience, I think I'll start like a I'll save up, have some sort of money raising thing, and then I'll make a initial batch of physical printed versions of it, and then I'll, you know, that for order, and then people can, maybe a Kickstarter, and people who participate first and or like, you know, fund it, then they can get like, I don't know, a PDF or something of it for free, or some sort of reward like that. Yeah. That's reasonable, it just has to be good enough for that. Which is mainly my story is the concern. For me, it's like, visually I'll figure out everything visually, but it's the story itself that is the main concern. I think it's arguably one of the most important parts to a story. Like, you know, the visual aspect could be really essentially anything, but the story has to be reasonably good. You know, like there's so many like comics and things where the visuals look very nice, but the story itself is rather lackluster, so it's really not that good. And then you have stories where the art is kind of questionable, but then the story is so good it doesn't matter. See, clearly the story is what makes most difference. Like, quite frankly, a lot of comics that I look at, the story is just shoddy, so I just look at it for the pictures and just skim the story, because the story is just usually it's so simple and so cliche that I don't even need to really look into it to know exactly what it's saying. So yeah, there's that. Anyway, yeah. Oh wait, hey, Jeff, do you have a Switch? Do you have Smash? If you do, we could fight. Smash Brothers, favorite game, all time. Oh man, yeah, Smash. Let's see, do I have my thing? Oh god. Oh no. Okay, well it's okay. If you ever do, let me know. So we can fight. All of us can fight. This PC and a quest. I don't know what a quest is. Yeah, I have PC, but I don't play games on it. I just use it for art and other things and whatever. My creative endeavours is what it's used for. VR. Oh, okay. I don't know what the quest is for. I know Oculus. I know Google Cardboard, and I know the HTC Vive. Those are the main ones, I believe. Oh no, there's one more. It's like the Morpheus for the PS4, I think. Yeah. Okay. I don't know if Xbox has any. No idea. I don't have any of those. I don't have a console like that. I'm more a Nintendo person. Not that I'm against PS4 and Xbox. I just never invested in them. You know. A Rift for the recent Rift, or like the older Rift? The current Rift? Arguably the top of the line of these VR things is very clearly, to me, Oculus and Vive. Those two are just like the leading. I mean, they deserve to be. They're really good. So. Older? Oh yeah. Oh, you sold it. Okay. The older one, the dev kits? You mean the boxy looking dev kit one? I remember those days. Man, the days when VR was just unthinkable. Now it's just everywhere. It's so simple. You could get your own version. It's called Google Cardboard, and you just order it, and then, you know, for like what, $30? I don't know. And you would use it with your phone. DK2s. Cool. I had none of them. I only know of them because I watch people on YouTube. Obviously. As with most games though, see, I don't have anything, so except for Smash. Smash is different. And the occasional Minecraft and other things. So, yeah. Sorry if it's rather uneventful right now. Usually I'd be reading, or I would be drawing, which I may do tonight. I will draw something. I need to. I want to do something. I know I will, actually. No, I have inspiration. It's kind of been piling up over time in the past, no wait, a few weeks, and it's gotten better. So I might do that. For now, I think I'll just close stream and do a little bit of Smash and then come back and draw something. Oh, what else? But hey, it's a pleasure to have all of you. Rebel, Jeff, and Mysterioso. Don't know who you are. I might never know who you are. But it's okay. Yeah, okay. Well, it's really chill. All my streams are kind of like this. It's just either it's talking or like, you know, just music in the background and then visual stuff. Very chill. And eventually, now that I've ordered a capture card, I've ordered one last night, I get to stream gaming from the Switch. Not that I'm good, just so that if anyone wants to see my terrible playing, it's there. Why not? It's more convenient to have it like that than using a webcam. That's how I've been doing it, because I'm poor. So, yeah, okay. Well, thanks for coming. I will hopefully be back soon. If you have the notification bell on, then surely you'll know. Yeah. Oh, I sound like every other YouTuber, but I'm not, I promise. Okay. Bye!